and breathe.
For me, the key is to understand why they're singing. And so you understand how it comes out of dialogue into song in a very seamless way so that you don't feel, oh, like the rules have changed and something's odd, you know. I think it's helpful in our film, for instance, that the movie opens with music. There's a song that opens the film. So it helps the audience understand that these are the rules that we're going to follow. Also, the fact that Mary Poppins is part of this, you know, the DNA of the musical that came before us helps us accept the fact that people are singing. But I was very meticulous about making sure that when someone did start to sing, that the song was earned, that you feel like the song comes naturally out of story, out of character, and hopefully moves back into story seamlessly. That's the goal. But when it works, it feels completely natural. You should be unaware that someone's starting to sing. It should feel very organic.
Come on, have a go.
No, I haven't sung in years.
Sing for us, Mary Poppins. Do sing for us.
No, I couldn't possibly. D flat major.
There's no real hardened rule because sometimes you say, well, I would love to have, which I felt, a big production number. You know, we created this character of Jack the lamplighter. So wouldn't it be great to have a number with all his lamplighter friends? Well, that was what we had in mind. And then we thought, well, how can we feed that into our story? And then we came up with this idea that the children reach the lowest point in the film for themselves and they feel despair and they don't know where to go. And then a fog sets in London and they have to be guided through London back home and to see the light. It's a figurative and a literal thing as well. We found our way into that production number, but you can't just shove a musical number into a story unless it does feel like it comes from the actual story itself. Some of the hardest ones are ones that are specifically created for the stage. I know when I did the film Chicago, that was built as a musical vaudeville, so that there were vaudeville turns that would be happening, and that was the language of the piece. And so the only way I could find my way into something like that was to create a very strong conceptual idea, which is that there was a stage, but it was taking place in someone's mind, and so that we could move back and forth between reality and that stage. So, you know, those are the hardest ones that are so very specifically created for the stage. And some are actually, you know, just hard to open up into a film. But it's such a balancing act. You know, in the theater, you accept so much you're in a false place. You know, you're in a theater with a proscenium. In film, it feels so real. You're so right there. You have to be very careful about how you present a musical, how you set it up and how you set up the rules. Well, it's an interesting thing about Hamilton because I think you have to accept in a way that this is the language of the telling, you know? But even with with Mary Poppins Returns, for instance, you know, there's a song, the second song in the film, which is called A Conversation, which is really the first sort of real song inside the story. And I used this device of a music box that older Michael, opens up and finds some jewelry of his wife who's passed. And that music box is playing, you know, there's a theme, there's a music there. And so music already has filtered into the world. So then when we transition into the singing, it feels more organic. I mean, it's all these crazy, you know, devices you have to find and work on to really make it feel like it's all meant to be.
I miss Mother.
Nothing's gone forever, only out of place.
So, yes, I remember very specifically the moment I thought, oh my gosh, she's Mary Poppins. And it happened on the first day of rehearsal. Emily's so prepared, and she was so in the zone already. And we started rehearsing the scene where she first comes into the house to meet Michael and Jane. And I watched her come in, and she took over the scene like a tornado, and it was as if Mary Poppins had arrived. I was so gobsmacked. I couldn't believe that on the first day of rehearsal, the first time we're rehearsing a scene, that she is already owning the part. I remember starting to literally well up with tears because I thought, I can't believe we're already at this level and where we'll go by the time we finish our rehearsal and start filming. So it was honestly right off the bat. Well, this is obviously a beloved film, as we know, and people love Mary Poppins, love Julie Andrews' portrayal of Mary Poppins. I'm one of those people. Also, they know the kids, and so there's a real sense of ownership as a viewer, which I had too. But I wanted to make sure we that I followed this sort of balancing act throughout the whole filming and creation of this, and that was to pay homage to the original film, but then find our own way. And with Mary Poppins, for example, Emily and I approached this role together as not a replication of what Julie Andrews did. You can't do that. That's what Julie does. So what you do is you go back to the books and you find out who this character is on the page, who P.L. Travers created. It's such a rich character. It's so full of, dichotomy. It's, she's at one point, she's obviously, incredibly stern and brusque, but underneath there's a child inside, who loves these adventures and so quirky and vain and kind of, a somewhat batty. I mean, it's the craziest, most wonderful character. And to go back to the books and really see who this character was on the page really helped release Emily's performance and also myself too, to see it in a new light. So what you have to do is like I said, it's a balancing act. You make sure that you protect what people know and love about the character, but then you also have to know that you're forging a new path.
Off we go.